Back in 2020, July 11, MarketWatch published a letter from a reader complaining that she and her husband didn't qualify for a stimulus payment because they make too much money. To make a summary, the couple were making $200,000 annually. But get this, they were broke. The original article is in the description below. Anyway, this article highlights the problems middle-class people face and why people making over $200,000 annually are still broke, meaning everyone making less than that is totally wrecked. To find out why, I dug deeper and found out 6 traps that make the ordinary middle-class American still poor. These traps highlight why it is hard for an American earning 6 figures, with little responsibilities in terms of children, medical bill, etc. Why it is difficult for them to live a quote-unquote the financial freedom life, and why they are still stuck in the rat race. But first, let us understand what we mean by middle-class family. Unless you are living on the street, almost everyone thinks they are the middle class. The World Bank describes poverty as living on less than $1.25 per day. However, that does not mean anyone living on more than $1.25 is middle class. Middle class is about having enough money to feed your family, afford your own house, build a retirement corpus, buy a car, take annual vacations, and partially or fully fund the college education of children. If your income is good enough to do all that, you are middle class. The middle income trap refers to a situation whereby a middle income individual fails to transition to a high income individual due to rising costs and declining competitiveness. Few people successfully manage the transition from low to middle to high income. Trap 1. Lifestyle creep. Middle-class people have this habit of raising their living standards at the same pace or faster than their income growth. The increased expenses leave them little money at the end of the month to save and invest for the long term. When too much of your income ends up going toward maintaining a lifestyle, whether it's eating out often or owning a home you can't afford, there isn't enough left over to make provisions for the future. Your goal should be to have as little debt as possible, rather than dealing with as much debt as you can while still being able to handle the payments. Of course, sometimes you don't have complete control over your spending. Any number of obstacles or unexpected events can keep families from creating an emergency fund or saving for retirement. Some people try to pay off debt, build an emergency fund, or increase their income all at the same time. These solutions would work to some extent. But if you have a hard time controlling your spending, for example, then increasing your income won't solve the problem. Make sure you consult a financial advisor before making a decision that could ultimately put more strain on your finances. No matter what your family's current financial situation is, it's important to remember that just because you have the option to buy or spend on something, that does not necessarily mean it's a good idea. Creating and sticking to an appropriate budget are great skills to have when trying to manage your family's finances. Trap 2. Relying too much on formal education. Middle-class individuals believe that their investments in formal education determines their wealth. But if the secret to building wealth was excellent grades, then every graduate would be a multimillionaire. Millionaires know that financial success has little to do with your ability to memorize textbook information. Instead, they believe that gaining specific knowledge about things like how to invest or network with powerful people have a stronger impact on their net worth. In fact, some of the world's top billionaires have little formal education. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, worth an estimated $132 billion, according to Forbes, dropped out of university. And Apple co-founder Steve Jobs once said that dropping out of Reed College was one of the best decisions he ever made. So, change your mindset, as formal education does not guarantee success or wealth. If you love sales, for example, take an online course that will strengthen your skills in that field. Bill Gates has credited much of his success to reading 50 books a year. Trap 3. Not taking responsibility. The average person believes being rich is a privilege awarded only to a few lucky people. Meanwhile, the ultra-wealthy know that in a capitalist country, they have the right to be rich if they're willing to create massive value for others. They serve others by solving problems, and since they have that belief, their behavior moves them toward the manifestation of their dreams. To overcome this trap, instead of focusing on how you can save more money on groceries and bills this month, brainstorm new ideas that have the potential to fix a common problem. Trap 4. They fail to understand that wealth is created through investing and not income. Statistics show that 14% of the world's millionaires are teachers, and about 50% are middle-income professionals. The reason is simple. Income doesn't always rise exponentially with time, but wealth can. Take Warren Buffett as an example. Buffett was once asked why he was so rich. He said 3 reasons. 1. Being born in America at the time he was, which gave him business opportunities. 2. Good genes. So he has lived a long, healthy life. 3. Compounded returns, which have been aided by those compounded returns. He didn't make his first billion until he was about 55. Now he has $150 billion. He would have had more if he hadn't given much to charities since the mid-2000s when he started donating to the Gates Foundation. So, leveraging time is one way to get wealthy, although not the only way. Another way is to leverage tax advantages you might have. For example, if you become an expat. As an expat, you may travel the world, and if you get a certificate of residency from a tax haven country, you will owe the IRS $0 in terms of taxes. This can save you thousands to millions of dollars, depending on your income. In connection to this, I will speak about risk, as it is the most misunderstood subject. The middle class assume that they are playing it safe with money in the bank. However, they are fooling themselves, and here is exactly why. 1. If you save money in the bank, you're buying into the sure risk of inflation. 2. If you only rely on your savings for retirement, you're risking everything on the assumption that things will go to plan. But life doesn't always go to plan. Some sort of risk is inevitable, it's everywhere. It is far better to 1. Put your eggs in numerous baskets and not just the bank or property. 2. Pick the risks you will take, it gives you more control. 3. Actually take actions rather than setting New Year's resolutions to save or invest more money plus lose weight and forgetting about it. Trap 5. Playing it safe. Middle-class people tend to operate with a scarcity mindset. They believe there will never be enough of something. As a result, they are extremely conservative with their finances. They fear that if they lose money, they won't be able to make it back. The rich get richer by using their money to make even more money without much additional effort. They factor in the risks involved in this strategy, knowing that while gains can be sudden and staggering, there will also be losses along the way. The multimillionaires of the world are constantly studying their investments, both the good and the bad. They know that the more experienced they become, the smarter they'll get, and the easier it'll be for them to replace money lost in high-risk deals. To overcome this, increase your tolerance for taking risks by betting on yourself in the undertaking of a new venture, investment, or partnership. If you learn to trust your judgment, your confidence will grow. Trap 6. The issue of renting versus buying a home. Housing costs can put a strain on the budgets of many middle-class families. Some people wonder if switching from renting to home ownership is more beneficial, but this is not the case for everyone. Far too many people purchase homes without enough equity. For a better understanding, equity is the difference between the market value of a house and the mortgage amount you still owe. Purchasing a house with the minimum down payment and a 30-year mortgage can easily land you in financial trouble. If you only have 3% equity in your home, and the value drops by 6%, you suddenly find yourself owing more on a house than it is actually worth. The other extreme isn't any better. Some people save for a long time and put 20% down on their home. However, in the process, they fail to save for retirement and forego contributing to an emergency fund, which can lead to more financial trouble. While home ownership is a wonderful goal, trying to get there without being financially ready causes unnecessary stress. To protect against this risk, wait to buy a home until you have saved enough for a sufficient down payment. Consider 20% as ideal, but a 10% down payment can be considered ideal if the house is a fixer-upper and the necessary renovations will increase the value of the house by 20% in 2 years to avoid paying the mortgage insurance for longer than that. But at the same time, don't fall into the trap of neglecting your other important long-term savings goals, like retirement.